You're listening to an audio article by the Common Constitutionalist. Today's article is entitled, "Don't Be Fooled by Big Labor Disaster Fund." For the past few days, I've heard public service announcements warning me to look out for charity scams. It seems every time there's a large-scale disaster, something like this happens. Crooks and scam artists come out of the woodwork, or crawl out of their holes they reside in, to prey both on the less fortunate, but also on the more fortunate that didn't suffer the disaster. They set up phony charities and cleanup services and begin making phone calls to kind and unsuspecting Americans. So prevalent have these scams become that FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, as well as multiple state governments, has even felt the need to set up a fraud alert website. Now, normally I'm not big on advertising anything having to do with the feds, but this one is informational only. I'm an advocate for hands-off government and buyer beware, but in the case of a disaster this massive, I guess I'm okay with it. Of course, none of this would be necessary if there weren't so many scumbags in our midst. Fraudulent schemes can range from fake disaster cleanup services for those directly affected to phony charities set up to help the victims of such and such disaster. And I don't doubt they'll be out in spades after this one. However, there is a fraud being perpetrated on the unsuspecting American public that will get little coverage in the mainstream press. It seems that big labor seeks to exploit the Texas-Louisiana disaster, mainly Texas. Quote, the Texas Organizing Project Education Fund, a labor-affiliated group to make inroads in right-to-work Texas, launched the Hurricane Harvey Community Relief Fund in the wake of the flooding that was devastated the Houston area. Unquote, writes the Free Beacon. If you're thinking, well, that's terrific that an education organization wants to help its fellow Texans in their time of need, you'd be wrong. Their website states that, quote, your donation is vital to ensuring that we have the resources we need to organize and fight for Texans devastated by Hurricane Harvey, unquote. Fight who? This doesn't sound at all like a charity interested in helping the victims of Hurricane Harvey. It sounds more like a political action committee. Well, that's exactly right. The Relief Fund has no intention of providing food, water, shelter, or any relief at all. The fund was set up by the radicals at SEIU and other social justice warrior nonprofits that cater to illegals and other leftist causes. In fact, if one were to examine the hyperlink to the Hurricane Harvey Community Relief Fund, one would notice that the fund was set up by the technology company NGPVAN. According to NGPVAN itself, they are the, quote, gold standard in political fundraising, unquote. They are also the leading technology provider of, wait for it, the Democrat Party. They have no interest in helping the disaster victims, nor does SEIU or others. Rather than help the hurricane and flood victims, the goal of the fund is really to allow big labor unions like SEIU, AFL-CIO, and the teachers' unions to make inroads into Texas, which is a right-to-work state. My advice, should you choose to donate, try to stay as local as possible. Local to Houston, that is. Make sure your charity is a charity you can trust, that gives virtually everything donated to the cause and doesn't skim off 40 to 60% or more in administration fees. It's a shame that we have to do homework just to help out, but that's just the way it is. Donators beware. Thank you for listening.